Okay. Cosette Jarrett is a writer and strategist specializing in digital, lifestyle, and personal tech, and she's got extensive experience in social media optimization, content strategy, and copywriting. But where do you fall on the side of mixing nerdism and geekism? Because, I mean, these guys are really, really bugging me. Where do you fall there? Do you need to keep the streams separate? Nobody gets my reference there.
No.
It's a Ghostbusters thing.
I guess I'm not getting the...
Ah.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see the new one, and it's been a minute since I saw the last one.
I'm just going to be isolated in my geekdom today, aren't I?
Yes.
I think so.
But it's like every other show, so it's okay.
Nice. Yeah. See. Well, Cosette, give us a picture of the day in the life of what you do regularly.
So it's my responsibility at my work to work with my team to design and execute SEO, digital PR, and strategic content strategies in order to help our sites go from launch into hopefully top-ranking, high-authority sites. And so a lot of that looks like working with editors, helping my content strategy team create.
Well, I think we broke up. If you can give me that last bit of what you were just talking about.
Okay, which part was that?
All right, there we go. Just the last bit of actually focusing with your team to actually increase SEO value, utilizing those techniques. That's where you broke up. So give us another snapshot there.
So I work with my SEO and content strategy team so that we can create content that is not only optimized for SEO purposes on the site, but is also likely to perform well when we take it to outreach.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, I was remiss in actually telling our listeners who you work for, and that is Clearlink. Can you give us a picture of the type of clients that Clearlink actually works with?
Right. So we work with a lot of home services and telecom companies, a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and we basically work as an affiliate, build sites, and help drive sales. Excellent.
And yeah, there's some big brands that we checked out on the website. I think AT&T being one of them. Right. There's some strong juice there. So you're moving a lot of outreach and a lot of PR for those organizations, huh? Right.
Yeah, it's really fun to work with those brands. I mean, kind of to have that clout behind you and be working and be able to have some creative reign with that.
So. Certainly, you worked with smaller brands before, and can you kind of encapsulate the challenge that maybe not? There's different challenges for small and large brands. Can you give us kind of a synopsis of working with a small brand as opposed to a large brand?
Well, I guess it would be more of an agency versus affiliate marketing agency, sort of a contrast for me. When I was working in a smaller agency, we were working, of course, with smaller brands. And it was a lot harder for me to get things pushed through because there was a whole client approval process, and you kind of had to work very closely with them. And if they didn't like an idea, there was the whole kibosh that was put on it. Or, you had to wait 2 weeks and then it wasn't relevant anymore. But now that I'm working with an affiliate company and we are working with some of these larger brands, we're a little bit more separated. So I have a lot more creative reign. I can get things out in a more timely process, and it's a little bit easier for me to kind of go with what I think is right.
Excellent. Some of the challenges with small brands from a PR standpoint. Actually, before anything else, I want to back up and ask you to describe. I mean, I described it as modern PR as we got into the segment, but you do outreach. But give us the recipe of what true digital outreach is, and where this has derived from.
So I guess that it starts from traditional PR. So you would try to get people interested in what your client was doing or what they had to say.
Right.
But now it actually has become a little bit. I would say it's not easier, but it's different. In that you can create content online for your client and keep kind of getting a fresh start so that you can get that coverage in the digital sphere, as opposed to having to just really reach out to people and have that personal connection as a traditional PR would.
So some of the tactics that help give you lift on the PR front are obviously different than the traditional PR execution. So some of the tactics that you regularly apply are social media, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, social media, and then content marketing is huge. If you don't have the content or the resources on your site, then you're really not going to do well in getting people to care about it.
And it's also a momentum play more than anything else. Is that moving content and getting the momentum going makes opening opportunities a heck of a lot better. So and this is where I was going in the concept of a small organization looking to start their branding, looking to start their content marketing. What would be some advice that you would give them in order for them to be able to see that return on objective that they're so needing?
Well, I would say to start by identifying the needs and wants of your consumer market, and that's as simple as looking for the questions that they're asking. You can use keyword tools to find out what they're asking, even something as simple as Google autocomplete, or and there are all kinds of tools where your consumers are asking you to answer certain questions, and you really want your content to be able to do that before you focus on cool tools, or this dates back, but infographics or video or whatever. Before you focus on those things, you really need to figure out what's your consumer base asking.
Right.
What can you put out to quickly and effectively answer their questions without all the fluff?
No, absolutely, and that's where it gets. That's the purest mindset right there. You have to be able to know how to answer the questions that your customer's asking. Do you have any recommendations for small agencies? Small businesses from a pace and a regularity of doing outreach? Is it once a quarter, or should it be a consistent flow of connection?
It should be a consistent flow of connection. I feel like that's what you need to establish relationships within the industry, B, set yourself as an authority, and C, recover from failures. Because if you are, putting something out that's outreachable once a quarter, how bad is that failure going to feel when you have to wait a whole other quarter to put something out with potential again? So we try to do at least one major outreachable content piece per month, and then focus on putting out content that could potentially be outreachable, but at least answers our consumers' questions at least 3 to 4 times a week.
And as you take on a client, this is really intriguing to me because, and for people listening, they should kind of understand what this model is. So a typical agency or small company, like you were talking about, Aaron, would hire, let's say, a PR firm. Right. They might release, let's say, an infographic like Cosette was saying, and then the PR firm would pitch that all month long out there. Right. And then leads back to that company with Clearlink. These large companies are basically outsourcing all of that to you. So from a creative aspect and process aspect, and then you guys are, I'm guessing, you guys get to set the appointment back and get the lead back to the client. So it's a little bit of a different approach than a normal company would go through. Would that be true?
Yes, that's completely true.
So you're also processing the leads as well.
And that's and so it seems to me that one of the great things about what you guys are doing is, especially because you're focusing your efforts in home services and things like AT&T, is you're building personal relationships with these publishers out there and these influencers out there over time, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's the base of what we do. It's all about building valuable relationships. Just because a lot of, and I think I addressed that as one of my pain points with the industry in the questionnaire you guys sent out, but a lot of people assume automatically when they get an outreach email that they're getting spam or they're getting this, or people are just trying to pull one over on them. So it's I think that it's critical to establish those relationships with publishers and editors so that you can more easily get your content covered later on.
And that's a huge differentiator for people listening. For people listening, that's a huge differentiator. Is even as a small business or even a medium-sized business, a large business, you're not going to have those established relationships that you can call on right out of the gate. So I'll give you, let's reverse this. The Marketing Tech Blog is this way. Right. So I have, obviously, every day I get 25 emails pitching me on something, but I have 5 or 6 public relations professionals that I trust wholeheartedly. That when their emails come through, I know it's going to be a good one. And so they're always at the top of the list, and I always listen to them. They don't waste my time. They respect me. They know the format that I like. They know the assets that they need to give me. And so I think that's a really important for people to listen is that's why you hire an agency like this is because they already own, if you will, those relationships, and they know how to curate them. Whereas a business, you're working on your product or your services every day. That's where you need to focus your attention.
Yep.
Well, these folks like Cosette, focus their attention on building these trusted relationships with influencers.
Cosette, I think Doug's your pitch man now.
I know, you must be. Thank you very much.
Well, Cosette,
that's fantastic. That's exactly it. And I mean, I can definitely agree as working in the tech industry has certainly fueled my ability to take on freelance writing projects as well. And I get pitched often. And this is a part of where I learn the most of what I know about digital PR is, like you were saying, you get all of these emails and it's just like, I don't want your spammy press release. Again, I really don't.
Right.
But there are several PRs who I really trust to give me information that's not only accurate but timely and relevant to what I do.
Yep.
So
it really takes building.
We know there's a lot of tools out there that help PR professionals, and I like the modern PR. I like the outreach concepts as opposed to the traditional PR. I mean, you're still in the same vein, but the setting is wholly different. I mean, you have a small window of opportunity with that email communication, and that is the best way. Would you agree or disagree to be able to gain somebody's attention? I
don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. We've run tests with calls as well.
Right.
And a lot of digital PR people will tell you that you need to make calls, that's more effective. But honestly, in our tests, we've found that emails were more effective. So
really?
I would say that emails are more effective, but I feel like a lot of digital PR folks might disagree with me.
Yeah. But, okay, so in the email space, there is such a way to draft. I mean, it's such an importance on how that email immediately is received and perceived. And there's a lot of tools out there that help automate the process, but I can see that as a direct challenge to the authenticity and the natural way to be able to speak. I mean, you lose quality whenever you start using a tool set to be able to mass pitch. So I guess my question is, are the most effective pitches and communications to even get the conversation going, are they most effective by the individual email? That's completely unique, completely authentic.
I guess it depends on your goal. So if I'm working on I guess I kind of pare down my link targets. So if I'm trying to pitch someone bigger like Mashable or CNET, I'm going to want to give them a more unique and custom pitch. But if I'm just targeting a bunch of smaller tech blogs, then it's almost impossible if I've got 100 prospects on my list to really individualize each of those emails. So what I try to do is I try to individualize those emails the best that I can, and I put them into a tool like BuzzStream, which allows me to send off the emails at least one by one. So I can kind of customize. Of course, I don't say, good afternoon, person. I just can actually say the person's name and pick the person who I'm reaching out to, but it's a quicker process. But then with those people like Mashable or CNET who have been there, done that with the automated approach, I try to reach out to specific people there and kind of look at if I've got a content piece that I think matches the content that X journalist or editor has been sharing at Mashable, then I go and I kind of check out what their writing style is like. I like to know what their tone sounds like, and that can kind of give me a better idea of how I should approach them. So those ones I do get very, very personalized with when I want to reach out to those, top 10 targets. But then for the rest of them, I still see some success in reaching out.
But even with those tones and those, you're putting together almost a library of useful snippets and communication sentences and tools that you can then use at a later date to help persuade, but you better not be caught using the same thing on the same person. But but I mean, you're creating a library, and it's of useful phraseology, and I can only imagine that it's a well thought out execution like that will certainly bear fruit. But you also run into a heck of a lot of automated email users that are giving PR and the digital PR a bad name, right? They are,
and I mean I hate to just bash on other people's.
Go right ahead.
But I think that a lot of those automated emails really do. They make us come off, the industry in general come off as a bit spammy, and that's.
Yep.
At MozCon, one of the talks I really enjoyed was Kirsty Hulse, and she's a digital PR specialist out from, I think, and I could be totally wrong, but she's British, so she's from somewhere over the pond. Yeah. But she was talking, and she was saying that a lot of the times we make the mistake of feeling like we're the naughty teenagers of digital marketing in general, just because everybody thinks, or we tend to think that we're spammy because others are spammy. But so they get these influx of emails, and I think it's important to establish yourself as a confident person who's confident in the content that you have, provide all of your assets, and really set yourself apart from spammers.
I
in the
totally
best way
agree.
possible, because it can be difficult, even when you create an awesome content piece and have the best outreach strategy. The market can be so saturated that it'll flop. But really, the best that you can do is approach it with confidence and provide all of the assets so that you can try to set yourself apart, at least from the spammers.
Well, and the thing is from a publisher standpoint, like Marketing Tech Blog, I rely, half my content probably comes from pitches. So I don't look at it as spammers. Where I get frustrated is, the folks that they use the multi. If I haven't answered in 2 days, they're going to send me the automated. I haven't heard a response from you yet. And the folks that know me will write me a personal note and say, "Hey, Doug, I'm not sure if you missed this, but I know it's exactly what you write about." I can tell that they took the time to personalize it,
right.
Rather than just the robotic responses. So I love that approach. I think you guys are doing fantastic.
Let me ask you this, Cosette. Do you have any favorite strategies that you're willing to share when you use to pitch a new website?
When I pitch a new website, well, a lot of what I do has been pitching content on the websites. I haven't been fortunate enough to put a brand new website quite yet. But I've just been pitching a lot of our content pieces, and I think that one of the most valuable things you can do is just to provide all of the assets up front and be concise and clear in your pitch. Another thing that, and I haven't necessarily tried this out yet because I feel like we tend to do it often, is be self-deprecating in our emails. Oh, I'm sorry, I know you're busy, I know you're this. What I'd like to say now, Kirsty Hulse once again was bringing this up, and I think that it's important for us to take that out of our pitching and just focus on being confident in what we're pitching and knowing that we have great content. And if it's not great content, we probably shouldn't be pitching it in the first place. But so I guess that my favorite tactics, I would say, are providing all the assets, personally trying to personalize my emails the best I possibly can. So finding editors or specific journalists and figuring out kind of what makes them tick in terms of tone, and just establishing yourself as more of a traditional PR person than an SEO, I think, is important.
Excellent. You're almost like a divining rod for success for an organization, because where it used to be, and we'll just briefly touch on this, where 6 to 8 years ago, inbound links and the quantity of the links were the name of the game, and we all know what happened during those years. And there's not that much you can do in that factor. It naturally evolved to authentic communication. Even the guest blogging side of things have dried up because of so much spam that was out there. You have to have authority coming from inbound. You have to have that relationship. You have to have that endorsement from other websites, and it cannot be done with a lack of authenticity anymore. You have to be real, and we talk about it all the time. The game of the auto slam marketing initiatives are gone. You have to be real. You can't BS your way, right? And you can't be a bot. No. You can't you can't buy your way either, and that's the best thing. I mean, all things considered, what a great series of events that have that's transpired to be able to clean up this crap.
Yeah, I was going to ask Cosette here.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be cleaned up, and I think that it's a much better experience for the end user as well. We don't have so much garbage, just guest posts that were purely designed for linking or self-promotion or a thing of the past.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, Cosette, I was going to ask what makes a better digital PR person? Someone who has a PR background or someone who has the SEO background? Because they're both kind of different. They don't get the same kind of education in college. PR's their traditional PR, and SEO is kind of self-taught or go to an agency or an internship type of thing. What kind of makes a better digital PR person?
It's hard to say. I mean, you definitely need at least a basic understanding of SEO to be successful at it. However, I think that it's very important to understand how to effectively communicate with people, and I think that's probably the key. So I might say that a PR person, a traditional PR person, just because they've had to deal with, breaking those barriers between people who don't want to talk to you and figuring out how you can make them talk to you. And
there was a third option there, Tom.
What's that?
Horse whispering.
Horse whispering?
Yeah, literally. I mean, I'm using it as an analogy, basically. What the hell are we talking about?
Yeah.
Indiana's got some.
I'm allergic to horses, so.
No, but honestly, the analogy is apropos of being able to speak to a person in the language, the terms that they'll be responding to. That's an intuitive skill that really. It surpasses any particular channel of education. You got to know how to speak, and you got to know how to listen.
Sure.
Exactly. Thanks a lot.
What'd you say?
Thanks a lot, Doug. And that can build such a great repertoire of relationships of people that trust you and know that you'll listen to them and you'll champion something that helps them build their value as opposed to just the client's value.
Right. Exactly. It's all about figuring out how you can benefit the person you're sending that email to. I mean, if it were all just what we wanted all of the time, then would be fantastic. Oh, it'd be great if I could just send it and say, here, I've got great content, take it. But how can I convince you that this is going to be what you need as well?
Exactly.
It's not just about us.
Horse whispering. That's what I'm saying.
Horse
anyway.
You prefer cat whispering,
the PR whisperer. How about that? Okay. Well, Cosette, can we bring you over to another segment and talk about maybe learning from some failed pitches? How about that?
Sure thing.
Excellent. All right. So we're going to speak with Cosette a little bit more about strategy and PR outreach, about PR and SEO, as well as learning from failed PR pitches coming up right after this. Hey, we actually talked during the break, and I wanted to pull this back around and just really kind of talking about the skill sets. And I think Tom teed it up for us right before the end of the segment.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. About the nature of this outreach specialist, outreach strategist. Wow, did terrible damage there. I mean, that's your role over at Clearlink. This encapsulates your role and your particular skill set encapsulate something a good deal more far-reaching and still in its infancy in a particular manner. Is that PR has been around for decades, and it's honed itself on traditional communication skills. But we're in a digital age. We have to hone our email communication skills, getting the tone right in the email, and also being able to have such a level of innate skill of finding out what the needs of people are and being able to develop a repertoire, but also a way to make people comfortable and trust you. That's something that's not usually found in the annals of tech. tech, I wouldn't say by and large, but there's a good portion of marketing individuals that are behind their computer and don't regularly try to communicate regularly, you know, and I say that with a bit tongue in cheek. I mean, everybody's a communicator, but being able to persuade people to be able to interact with you, that's a whole nother dimension, and it's a strength that is new on the horizon. Can you give me a little bit of a picture of this burgeoning new environment where we find ourselves in the digital outreach, the pitch PR environment?
Right. So, I mean, gone are the days where you can just generically reach out to somebody and hope that you'd get coverage. I mean, you can't expect it. The doors are shut in that area. You have to be more personalized with your approach. And fortunately, we can still kind of hide behind our computers in a way,
sure.
By emailing. However, you still have to be personalized, and you still can't just go up to somebody and expect them to take what you're giving them. So this skill set really does involve an innate sense of, or innate ability to communicate with others, but also being able to identify, like you said, what they need and what they want and how you can most effectively connect with these people.
I think it's an incredible...
So I think we've kind of moved away from the outreach professionals being solely SEOs who come up with the strategy, but also individuals who are not only able to design the strategy, but execute it effectively in a way that's human, that doesn't feel generic or contrived on the other receiving end from editors and publishers.
Because we're all digital savvy now, and even all recipients that have a website, that have content, they're onto you. They're not you personally. Sorry.
All of us. They are.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they can sense it a mile away, and you've got to be authentic, and you got to be able to bring value. Can you maybe share some of the tools that you use to be able to track to see if maybe your communication was opened? Do you use any of those type of tracking programs?
Yes, I do. So when I am doing more of a mass outreach project, and so for example, if I have a content piece that I'm really hoping to get some quality coverage for, I use BuzzStream. And within BuzzStream, there's this little logo when you're sending out the emails that it's like a little dog, and you just click on it, and I think the dog is in reference to tracking. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
But anyway,
click
that, and you can see they have it's a little eye icon that'll come up when you go to check your emails when you go back through them. And you can see if it's been opened and how many times. And then also another cool part about that is if you're using a certain template, you can go in and manage your templates, and you can see the open rate of that. So you can see how successful your headline was against perhaps another subject line. So that's what I use for mass outreach. For just standard outreach, if I'm sending one-off emails, or even as in my freelance writing side of things, it's helpful for me to know if that email's been opened. So I use something like Streak.
Okay.
It's just TREAK, and that one's been really helpful for me. Same thing. You can go back in. It's got the little eye icon, and it'll show you how many times it's been opened and when.
Right.
I know that you can use Yesware as well. I've tried that one. I wasn't the biggest fan of Yesware. I just like how Streak is kind of in a simplified process, right in next to your emails in your inbox or your sent box. Whereas Yesware, you have to kind of go in and you get all these notifications and whatnot. I prefer Streak. So.
Yep. HubSpot has a Sidekick as well. I think is also a useful tool. It does the same thing and keeps the open thread of the communication, but also shows you whenever somebody comes back to that email, it will alert you as a desktop alert. Hey, they're checking this email out. That's actually saved my butt a couple times. Oh yeah, I owe them something, don't I?
It's certainly helpful. I mean, and if you can see that somebody's been opening your email, and I know we talked about follow-ups before, but if you can see that somebody's been opening your email multiple times, you can tell that they must be at least somewhat interested in that, or they're passing it around and laughing at you.
There could be that.
But either way, you want to send up that follow-up, and I mean, follow-up is always absolutely essential, but I feel like it gives you a little more confidence or a little more knowledge coming into that follow-up.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the analogy. You got one on the hook, right? You got to reel them in,
exactly.
but you got to be able to see them moving around. So can you change in the course of this a little bit? Failed pitches and learning from failed pitches. There's obviously great information to be able to gather from a failure. Nobody wants to admit it, but that's absolutely the truth. In fact, you learn more from failures than you do from successes. I'm just going to say that twice. You learn from failures. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from pitching?
Well, so I guess I'll start off by saying I feel like it's very hard for those of us who consider in a given field to ask for feedback and to admit that maybe others know something we don't. So I guess that was one of the biggest hurdles that I faced in transitioning from agency to in-house, was realizing that it's okay to ask for feedback.
Right.
So that's what I've been really focusing on lately. And, you know, in outreach, you don't get a whole lot of feedback. Rarely will you get an editor who says, I don't like this piece because blank. But when you do, you really do need to focus on that and break it down and look at it and analyze it and ask your team about it and say, what do you think they're trying to say here? What are your thoughts on their feedback? Or ask them more specific. Say, hey, I really appreciate the feedback. Is there anything else? Or if you have specific questions, ask for them. I think that that's very important. But one of the things that I've learned in my experience with just freelance writing pitching has been, I was pitching this blog. I think I sent them like 5 pitches, and everything was getting turned down. It was going into editing, and editing kept coming back with, you know, this is really close, but it's not quite there still, so sorry about that. And that was frustrating because I would write these pieces, and then in the end, they wouldn't get put up, but they'd have all these edits. And so as frustrated as I was, I had to look back and realize, okay, well, there's a reason why they keep getting these edits. It's not just because the editor's a jerk. It's because they're looking for something else. So I went back and I started analyzing the edits that I was getting, and I realized, hey, this publication wants me to talk about startups, and more specifically, they want me to talk about who's funding them and how that's happening and yada, yada, yada. They don't want just my generic tech pitches, or I wasn't sending, of course, generic tech pitches, but more of opinion pieces.
Right.
So then I got very granular with that, and I started to look at it, and I really gave them. I listened to everything that I was being told, basically not directly, but just from edits in a roundabout way. And I crafted a pitch that actually went up on the blog today. So I was really excited. I mean, it was a big publication that I was trying to get to, and I had to go back in and just actually listen to what the editor was saying without him directly saying it, which I think is important because, like I said, rarely will you get somebody to tell you point blank exactly what they want or exactly what they're expecting from you. So I think that was a big part for me.
Absolutely. What is unsaid is actually a lot of times more important than what is actually said, because a lot of times they don't know what they're really wanting as well, right? I mean, there's
Exactly.
you're getting close to it, but they can't even articulate sometimes what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So, do you have an ultimate fail story?
An ultimate fail story.
That you're willing to share?
Well, I reached out from a company email one time when I was trying to pitch an editor at a certain tech publication just on my on a freelance writing position. And so he called me out and said, "You're a dirty marketer," basically. And I was like, no, this is totally separate. But I think that I kind of failed at that publication. Fortunately, they're a big enough publication that they have several offices, so I can always try to be a writer at another one. But I think that was my biggest flub. In fact, I was just trying to write for him.
Got it. All right. Well, I mean, what kind of advice would you give someone on how to learn from their failure? I mean, because you're learning it the tough and hard way, but I mean, you're also paying attention to it. Have you seen people not learn from their pitches, not learn from the execution that they're sending out there? And what advice? I mean, maybe some people that you know right now that aren't learning from their pitches. What kind of advice would you give them? Not naming any names.
Not naming any names, but I mean, I keep getting pitched on the same software it's the same guy pitching me too, but it's trying to get me to use this email tracking software. And I think that I wrote back to him and I said, this just really isn't a good fit for my team. We're already using X, X, and X tools. So then he writes back, I'm sorry, Miss Jarrett, blah, 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 blah. And it was just a spammy email. I was being very nice and responding to it in the first place, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, and then they pitched me the same thing again and say, I think it'd be a great tool for your team. But I think that one thing that you need to learn is if you fail with someone and they just tell you it's not a good fit, then you need to figure out how you can make it a good fit, or how you can eliminate some of their fears surrounding it. So how could you instead, just by dropping it and pitching me the same exact pitch again, say, okay, I understand that, but this tool differs in such and such way because, and I noticed by your team size, or I've seen people who, they pitched an article idea and somebody has turned it down, and so they've said, hey, I understand that these are your concerns surrounding the article, but this is why I think it would work. I've pulled some research to find out why it would work. I've looked at similar blog posts or something on your publication that have had X amount of shares. So I mean, I guess that I got on a tangent there, but I feel like if you have somebody giving you concerns, it's important that you recognize those and you respect them rather than just trying to give up for a minute and then trying to push a different content piece down their throats later. It's important to actually recognize those concerns and have respect for them, and realize that in your next pitch, maybe make a note that the next time I pitch this editor, I'm going to include a little note about, share worthiness, or include something that says, a similar piece has worked well for you. So yeah, I guess in a way, I think that blatantly ignoring people's concerns is probably one of the biggest mistakes I've seen people make.
Oh gosh, yes. Anything else in the annals of, or the concept of failed pitches that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. So another one comes from one of the writers who I'm good friends with within the tech sphere. She had applied for a position as a freelancer at one of the major publications that I'm constantly targeting with my outreach pieces here. And she didn't end up getting it, but she did learn through the process that their contributing writers who are hired on are under some serious pressure to churn out a lot of content every day.
Mm-hmm.
They have to send out 3 pitches every day, and then one of them will get accepted, and they have to have it written by a certain time in the afternoon, and this is every day, 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. So they're always looking for content. They're hoping that somebody's going to put a great piece of content in their laps. However, my mistake was that I was always pitching the editors of this publication, as I had never thought about the freelance contributors. So she told me, well, why don't you, instead of pitching these editors, why don't you start pitching the people who really need your content, because the editors don't care. I mean, they're getting the pitches from the freelance writers who are then generating the content. But the freelance writers would love to have a great piece of content thrown in their lap. So that has worked actually very well. I haven't tried it out yet, but I recommended it to someone on my team, and she got some major coverage on that exact publication, which was our team's first time getting that. So.
Beautiful. Excellent. If I could, with the remaining time that we have, ask you a little bit of the relationship of PR to SEO. What steps can businesses take to help tie the public relations and SEO together?
Well, I guess just rather than looking at your link building efforts as solely link building, you can look at it as relationship building or content marketing. I mean, you kind of have to look at how all of those things come together to be effective at digital PR, because you're not just out there trying to generically get links. You're out there trying to build relationships that will earn you authoritative links later on. Yes, links are your goal, but for the most part, you're looking to build relationships with editors and journalists so that later on you can have that. It's not so much about just out there generating links, because I think that oftentimes SEOs look at it as a numbers game, which can be hard. It's important to realize that you do, like we've been talking about this whole podcast, need to take a personal approach, and rather than focusing on the quantity of the links you get, focus on the quality of the links you get. But at the same time, I think that it's important for us digital PRs to understand that the basics of SEO. So understanding what a domain authority is and why we should be focusing on posting on several sites as opposed to, consistently getting our coverage on the same exact sites or, writing for the same sites.
So what tools and strategies and tips can you give our listeners on how to combine SEO and PR?
So I would recommend the Mozbar.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys are using that or not. Yep. But that basically just gives you a rundown of the quality of the site, which will make your SEOs very happy if you're delivering links on sites that actually matter. So you can use that if you install it. It's just a Chrome extension. I think it actually works with multiple browsers, but you can definitely use it for Google Chrome. And it'll follow you around up in that top toolbar. You can click on it. You can see the quality of the site, which is ranked by domain authority. Domain authority is 1 to 100. For me, I try to focus on sites that are above 50. Those are like my top tier. But anything above, I'd say 30 is outreachable if you're doing a mass outreach. So I think that the Mozbar is critical. I also think that tools like keywordtool.io are important so that you can, or like a keyword planner, same thing. Both of them are great tools that can help you kind of understand. So you can put in, say I'm looking for people who are searching for internet providers in their area.
Right.
I can get through there and see what else people are looking at in relation to internet providers in their area and kind of get content ideas based on that. So I think that's another important way of understanding, of helping those of us who aren't necessarily on the forefront of SEO understand what our SEOs are doing and what keywords they might be going after.
Oh, that's excellent. Excellent. Well, you went to MozCon here this past week, right? So
Yep.
MozCon looked bigger and better than ever on Twitter. How was it in person?
It was insane. It was actually my first MozCon. Clearlink decided to send me this year. I had an article published on the Moz blog back last, I think, spring. So Clearlink decided to go ahead and send me because I had some relationships I wanted to build there. But
cool.
It was incredible. The production value was just insane. Of course, they had all kinds of fun events surrounding it, but the speakers were really just incredible. I mean, I was just blown away by the quality of their speakers and the takeaways that I was able to get for my team.
Who were some of your favorite speakers this year?
Well, I mentioned her earlier, Kirsty Hurst. No, she was fantastic. She spoke a lot on outreach, and of course that's why she was one of my favorites. But I also really liked Kendra Hall. She spoke about storytelling, and she talked about how you need to tell the full story. She was talking about how a lot of people allude to stories, but then they never actually tell the full thing.
Right.
So I think that's very important, especially part of me that's a writer, but also when I'm trying to pitch to people. If I'm alluding to a story and I'm saying, you're going to love this, but I don't actually tell them what it is or give them the real hook in there, then they're not going to appreciate it. So.
I think they both spoke at SMX this year as well, if I'm not mistaken.
It could be, yeah. I think we have the Kendra Hall coming on either this year or early next year. So.
Excellent. Well, certainly. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said she's fantastic.
Yeah, very good. It certainly sounds like we missed something out there, Tom.
Yeah, and I saw they even did subtitles. I hadn't seen that before. They had like a courtroom stenographer that was putting subtitles up on the screen as they were speaking.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funky.
Oh yeah, it was interesting. And she was playing jokes on some of the speakers.
Oh, yeah.
She'd write something, and the audience would start laughing, and they'd be like, "What's going on?" And
that's not nice. Well, hey, I want to conclude with a reference to an article that you just wrote over at TechCrunch, and regarding how the startup world is bringing digital nomadism closer to reality. You mind speaking to that for a couple minutes?
Sure.
Excellent. Well, it was interesting, and I love the concept, and it's really talking about where this generation's moving towards, this digital nomad ism that tech workers are encapsulating. It's really tied into the gig economy in a larger sense because you can move anywhere, you can go anywhere, and still do your work. And these tech workers who need no more than an internet connection, and the internet is pervasive. It's everywhere now, and fast internet is the coin of the realm. The concept of remote work from your home is now actually beyond into remote, almost like adventure-driven space where people can go anywhere and do anything they want to, right, and still be able to get that work done. So give me a perspective of what's happening in this. You mentioned a few establishments, actually, that support this type of digital nomad behavior.
Right. Yeah. So, this was kind of inspired by, I was just doing some random browsing and I found Roam.co, which is one of the companies that I mentioned in there. Mm-hmm. And they actually allow you to pay a month's lease, or you just pay a lease every month, and then you get to go travel to one of their locations, which, I think they have different spots like Belize and Thailand, and you go live in their co-living communities, and they give you access to super fast Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. They also let you kind of live with the locals, and you're just paying like a monthly lease or something. So I was really inspired by that. I was like, this is just too easy now. I guess so long as your workplace allows it, you can pretty much travel the globe without as many cost problems as you normally would face. So I decided to look into some more of those places and companies that are trying to help people out. And I was just fascinated by it taking off. And I think that is an answer to the millennial generation's dreams. More of us are asking to be out of the office and travel more and do more, but we don't want to put our careers on hold. So I think it's an incredible answer to that for this generation specifically.
No ties to a permanent office or residence. Period. That's great for a particular period of time.
I have a van down by the river.
Yeah, there's a whole creeper. There's a whole creeper fest out there. The Nomad House is one of the groups that you mentioned. They have a housing network that matches digital nomads with co-living arrangements that are safe, comfortable, and nowhere near the river. Doug. There's also Roam. There's also Roam, which is another digitally minded collection of communal living spaces. The company was founded in 2015, has raised $3 million since origination. That's fantastic. And they've got brilliant Wi-Fi connection. And the WeWork is out there, and that's the communal space as well, right? You rent out different type of desks: a hot desk, a dedicated desk, or a private office. This is really cool. This is basically work the way you want to, and be able to move where you want to. Now, at the same time, I gotta say, there's a heck of a lot of adultism that needs to be right along with this. You can't have your playground and not be able to deliver to those people that are working for you, right? That you're working for. So, I guess the question is, not only is the digital nomadism attractive to the employee that wants to go and roam, but the culture of businesses that are open to this type of remote workership. Are you interested? Are you looking at the culture of those businesses and seeing what they need to do to be able to embrace that type of long distance rogue entity that's still contributing? What kind of accountability, what kind of structure do they need to be able to make sure everything is flowing well into their system?
Well, gosh, I think that a lot of it would just you'd have to have a lot of trust in your workforce, really.
Right.
But I think that kind of when you build that culture of trust, you end up getting coworkers who you can trust, or a workforce who you can trust. So you give people that leniency, and then you find out, are they capable of taking that on and being responsible for their work and performing? And if they're not, with a little bit of leniency, then they're probably not a great fit, especially not for digital nomadism. But I think that a lot of our companies, they're taking Google's cue and doing things like doing a lot for their employees, but then they expect a lot in return. And that kind of builds a system of reciprocity that is unprecedented. I mean, we now take more pride in our employers, I think, just because they do so much for us, that now you feel more accountable. If you are a quality worker, then you feel that bit of accountability. So I think it's just putting a lot of trust into your workers, into your workforce. I think that's important, and that will really show you the truest sides of your workforce if you kind of help them guide themselves to accountability, as opposed to just making them feel like you're kind of breathing down their neck so they have to be accountable. Right. And then I think that will eventually lead to a workforce that is able to work remotely and work from these crazy destinations. But another thing that I noticed in a lot of those places is that you were able to work with other like-minded tech individuals. So I think it was was it WeWork? I believe it was WeWork. They do the 10-day retreats, and you can go off and work with other entrepreneurs or work with other digital PR specialists or whatever, and you can gather insights from them. So you are getting an enriched experience from that. So I think there is a place where companies can benefit, because they're basically, by sending you off to work with these other people, they're sort of employing these different minds to help brainstorm and do different things, but they're also helping their employee enjoy an augmented lifestyle, I suppose.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is, and you're gonna see that grow more and more. That's great. It's neat. It's somewhat scary to employers sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I can see that. I can definitely see where it is.
But if that's where the millennials going, I guess we all have to go there, right?
I don't think it's just millennials. But I don't think it's just millennials.
I don't know if I'll be a digital nomad anytime soon, but
okay. See,
I think it's just a sign of the changing workplace.
I'm sorry, what?
I think it's a sign of the changing workplace, even beyond millennials.
Right.
I think it's just that millennials are this movement into the workplace at the same time
as change
is happening.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key here is even if you have a 5-year employee, wouldn't they love to work remote and get exposure to these other leaders within the industry and get that type of experience? That'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great article. Check it out.
That's a lot of work. Oh.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I was saying, I think it's a lot to start with the older generation that has established their career. Oops.
Yeah.
Getting a little messed up there. But yeah, a lot of them, I feel like you do need to establish your career really and earn your company's trust before you can expect to be a digital nomad. But yeah, so I think we will see it starting with generations that are older than millennials.
Yep. Well, Cosette, is there anything else that you'd like to cover here today? I think we were able to get through a lot of really cool concepts. Any final thoughts there?
No. Thank you guys so much for having me on the show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. So how do we find you? Give us some digital connections there. On Twitter, where are you?
At Cosette Jarrett. So that's at COSETTE JARRETT.
All right, and you're over at Clearlink.
Yep, I am at Clearlink.
And
in Salt Lake.
And you can find her on LinkedIn as well. Any last question? Any amazing things that have happened that you wanted to share with us in your life that you kind of had an aha moment about?
Amazing aha moments. That's a tough one.
That's great for a final question. That's just perfect.
Stump the guest. Great.
That is, amazing things that have happened in my life. Well, I guess that you could say that every chance that I've had to work with a new team or meet new people within my industry has been an amazing experience. From the first internship I was hired onto to the next, the first agency that took a chance on me when I was just a third-year college student.
Right.
And then to Clearlink taking a chance on me and really fostering my growth as well. Each of those have been just amazing kind of things that have fallen into my life that I'm very appreciative and grateful for.
That's the safe answer, Cosette. You realize that.
I do realize that, but I don't have any, I guess I know that in the questionnaire you guys asked something amazing. I put in a weird fact. I did a bodybuilding competition.
Well, there you go.
That was a weird fact, but
That's awesome.
but it wasn't amazing. If you want the out there,
Well,
out there answer.
all right. Well, I mean, don't mess with her because she's also about. Well, are you currently practicing right now, or was it when was that?
That was about a year ago. So I mean, and it was the smaller one. It was the bikini fitness, so it was this more compact. But I still had some good muscles at the time. They're
cool.
basically gone now.
All right. Well, there's an amazing fact for you.
I anything I say is going to be inappropriate.
Don't do it, man.
Let's just move on.
he knows himself so well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Cosette, thank you so much for your time today, and be sure to check out her articles as they come through. Great, astute articles, and if you're pitched by Miss Jarrett, it's authentic, right? So give it a listen and see what she's sending your way. Thank you so much again, and we'll be talking to you real soon.